Can you be a stripper and a feminist? Today, I'm going to tell you about how I became both. And don't worry, I'm not going to take any clothes off during it. I would never do that for free. So, how did I become a professional strip dancer? 10 years ago, I walked into a strip club in New Zealand and asked for a job. No, I wasn't desperate for money or trying to disappoint my parents or somehow ended there against my will. No. I was looking for something to challenge me and to get me out of my comfort zone. At this point in my life, I felt like I'd been a good girl for too long, and I felt very shy and insecure about my body. It was time to break free. I was excited and terrified. In my mind, strippers were these badass, gorgeous women, and I was nowhere near as cool as them. I almost expected to be laughed at when walking in. What I didn't expect was to find my dream job. What started as a challenge of courage ended into me finding my passion in life. And that's how I became a sex worker. Yes, sex work, because even though stripping doesn't actually involve selling sex, it does fall under the umbrella term of sex work, just like any consensual sexual performances or service. That's your cam girl, your porn actress, your dominatrix, and of course, full-service sex worker. Now, at this part, it's very important to differentiate between sex work and sex trafficking. Of course, we need to fight any instance of humans being forced into sex work, but not by condemning all of it, but by giving workers rights and a voice. So what does my job look like? First, it's important to know that most strippers are actually independent contractors. So we are not getting paid by the club, but only by the customers who come in and tip us, buy lap dances, and pay for our company and time. So if we don't connect to our clients, we don't make any money. On the other hand, if you want to be entertained, you have to pay. Some nights at work, I'm just a showgirl. Most nights, I'm also a naked therapist, a professional cuddler, an artist, an entertainer, a saleswoman, a hostess, a life coach, a comedian, and even a magician. I can make my G-string disappear in seconds. That variety is just one of the reasons I fell in love with this job. But there's something deeper, more magical that I burn for, and it has nothing to do with daddy issues or personal empowerment. I'll get to that part a little later. And speaking of daddy issues, I don't really have any. Dads love me. There is and has always been this war going on against the sex industry. Yet at the same time, advertisement, music videos, and fashion have never been more revealing and sexual. We condemn sex work, yet are somehow fascinated by the aesthetic and unholiness of it. It makes some people really uncomfortable when I talk about my job. Maybe even some of you, be honest. Not just because of the dark corners of it, but because it brings up some of our own feelings, issues, and desires. And surprisingly, it's often women who act the most repelled. Why? There's a beautiful theory that every woman can be a Madonna or a whore and combines both roles inside of her at all times. It's like a spectrum she moves on. Except that the role of the Holy Mother is a lot more valued in our society than that of the wild temptress. That one is dangerous. And so many women keep that part suppressed. And so it's a lot easier to look down upon a stripper than to confront all of those conflicting feelings. So let's take a closer look. Media loves to show strippers as dumb and desperate to sell their bodies for cash. Strippers sell their bodies just like construction workers, ballet dancers, models, and any profession requiring a body. Of course, I use my body to do my job, but it's still mine at the end of the day. You don't get to keep it. At the same time, some clients act almost offended when I ask to get paid for my services. Look, I get that the stripper fantasy includes that the stripper has a lot of fun, But having fun is part of my job, and I deserve to get paid for it, especially if I'm good at it. The other night, a client accused me of doing my job only for the money. He told me, "You're all about the cash. If it wasn't for the money, you wouldn't even be here." So I asked him what he did for a living. He said he was a banker. So, why do we even have strip clubs? Humans will always be lustful. We'll always be looking for touch, connection, excitement, and intimacy, and that doesn't necessarily mean wanting to have sex. Having needs and impulses is just part of being human. But what separates us from animals is the ability to choose if we act out of those impulses. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to act on it or suppress it. You could just feel it. So now that we established that feeling lust is okay, wouldn't it be amazing to have a safe space, kind of like a playground, where all of these feelings could be explored with consent? Something like a strip club. The important words here are safe and consent. Now, what does that mean? One of my girlfriends who works at an office told me she doesn't dare to dress feminine or sexy at work because she's scared her coworkers might not take her seriously or even harass her because of it. A lot of my other girlfriends don't really enjoy clubbing because they don't want to be confronted with unwanted sexual advances from men on and off the dance floor. Meanwhile, I feel safer and happier sitting in my underwear in the club than walking fully dressed on the street. Why is it easier for me to deal with sexism and disrespect at my job at the strip club than it is for some of my girlfriends with normal jobs? Because in the strip club, I get to consent or say no to any of these things. Good clubs will already have rules in place that help me to enforce this. But at the end of the night, I'm the boss of my boundaries. When walking outside, I cannot consent to being looked at or talked to in a certain way. But if you see the strip club as sort of like a playpen for me and my client, it can be a space where we get to play roles that don't find space in normal life. Roles that make us feel wild, free, and a little naughty. So maybe now you're wondering, but Amber, isn't it bad for business to say no and not always play nice? Don't you have to compromise to make money? It surely feels like that sometimes. It can be very hard to walk away when the cash is tempting, and I don't always get it right. But here's what I learned and keep learning. By walking away from what feels wrong, I gain much more in the long run. More money, yes, but more importantly, more energy. For every idiot that argues with me over a $2 tip, there's someone who will happily pay $100 just to massage my left foot. By demanding respect, I attract those who truly appreciate my time and attention instead of wasting it. So what does creating a safe space mean for the consumer? Can you visit a strip club and be a feminist too? Before I start a lap dance for someone, I often take the time to explain my rules to them. If, where, and how they're allowed to touch me, what's off limits, and how to make sure we both have a great time. Most people find it really comforting to know those rules. It's like saying, "Welcome to my garden, over here's the fence, now let's play." We play a game where I agree to show you my lustful feminine side, and you agree to simply enjoy it. Communication and consent. It doesn't just make a lap dance better. Now, some of you might be asking, okay, that sounds great, but why would I put myself into that situation? That sounds kind of frustrating. That's because society hasn't taught us how feeling lustful is so much more than just the need to have sex. In fact, I find that sex can sometimes even be used as a wall to avoid something deeper and even more vulnerable between two people. Taking that option away opens up a space where even more connection and intimacy can happen. A space where you see beauty and experience joy together. That, for me, is the real magic. No, I know that is very idealistic. Not every lap dance I give is a life-changing spiritual experience. Sometimes it's more about being silly together and leaving someone with a smile and some glitter on their face. Sometimes all someone needs is just a really good 10 minutes of entertainment and distraction. And that's okay too. But to make sure we both get the most of it, we need to feel safe. I'm not here to talk you into going into the strip club more. Although it's great if you do, bring your friends. But can we all enjoy being lustful a little more while treating others with respect? The worst part about my job is not feeling objectified. The worst part is feeling judged and misunderstood by people who don't even dare to take a closer look. The best part is sharing my joy of connecting to people and inviting them to experience something exciting together. The best part is seeing that smile appear on someone's face. In its essence, stripping is an act of feminism, of opening a window for someone to see the power and beauty of femininity. And that can really only happen if both sides respect each other. That's why I don't just think you can be a stripper and a feminist. To be a stripper and succeed, you have to be one. Thank you.